All right, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of In Liberty and Health. We are at episode 453, well into 4 years into podcasting, and the world continues to be a very, 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 very exciting place. Hopefully, wherever or however you're listening, you're doing well. Make sure you go check out all the previous podcasts I did, specifically the one I did this week with Pete Quinones, very good friend of mine and a very good friend of the show. When he comes on, people seem to really like it, and they really like the conversations that him and I have. And I felt like that one was really good. And as I said in the show, both before and during, I feel like his analysis of the Trump administration is pretty dead nuts on. And I feel like this his analysis in the last podcast was absolutely no different. So make sure you go check that out. That seems to be doing pretty well. And like I said, a lot of people seem to really like that. I definitely enjoyed the conversation too. Um, of course, today we're going to be talking about the US backing down from the strikes in Iran, what that kind of means, why they might have did it, and all that stuff. I have some theories and ideas, but we'll discuss that in today's show. It is a very cold day here in Pittsburgh. I went out to my gym, which is out my garage, and it never goes below 30 degrees, but working out in 30 degrees outside, not outside, but in a garage is pretty cold. It's pretty rough. So I wish I could block off that little bit of light right there because it's kind of ruining my lighting in the room. But regardless, like I said, hopefully everyone everywhere is doing well. We're going to be talking about that. I have a couple stories from antiwar.com. I have one from the New York Post, one from Al Jazeera. Probably going to be a little bit of a shorter show today, probably just at an hour, maybe a little under an hour. So we'll just kind of see how that goes because I already did a show this week and I don't have any plans for a show on this channel, at least for Wednesdays in the foreseeable future. I'm trying to work out a few guests, but we'll just kind of have to see how that works out. I'm perfectly okay with doing these streams every single Sunday. So, of course, if you want to support the Matovcik family and me so I could keep bringing you wonderful information about foreign policy and beyond, make sure you go to all the links below or consider becoming a channel member for the lowly price of $2.99 a month, where you can get uncensored podcasts. You can also see all of the Common Crown's footage that I record with my wonderful GoPro right here. And I'll probably do some more stuff members only eventually. I do occasional posts and stuff like that. So there's that. Go to tigerfitness.com, use code Kyle M, or I'm sorry, tigerfitness.com/Kyle M. Use code Kyle, check out to let them know that I sent you. So I would really, really appreciate that. Get all the supplements to keep you all jacked and tan. I just got a big order with a whole bunch of protein powder, built bars, the legendary donuts, which my wife loves. It seems to be like her casual breakfast, even though there's one sitting on the table downstairs. It's been there for a few days. She'll get to it eventually, I'm sure. But regardless, all that great stuff is available at tigerfitness.com. And of course, go to Fox and Sons Coffee. Use code Kyle at checkout to let Steven know that I sent you. And without further ado, let's get into the rest of today's show. That's me cracking a beer at 10 a.m. I'm just kidding, everybody. I got the Rise Sunny D energy drink, so I haven't tried this yet, but I'm very, very excited to try it. Pretty dang good. I like it. For all those people losing their minds, supposedly, I am the health nut. This is literally fine for you. The doses of aspartame, sucralose, whatever, carbonate water, citric acid. Let's see, where is it? Acetylsulfame. Yeah, all this stuff, it's perfectly fine for you. I promise. You're not going to die. The dosages that you would have to get to actually be lethal and actually hurt you are so ginormous, you'll never get there. Jay Forte, good morning to you, man. I guess I'm getting old. I'm pretty much done with the cold. Yeah, dude. I tell people all the time, if I ever move out of Pennsylvania, I am never picking up a snow shovel again. I hate it. I can't stand it. It sucks. Especially when you work on cars and you got to deal with that salty snow dripping on you all day, every day. It's awful. You pull a car in, you have to spend a little bit of time pushing all the snow off. It sucks. Jay Bemke, aspartame. Aspartame. Are you trying to turn us gay? I mean, like, if you're gonna send me money, then okay. If turning you gay by drinking aspartame is a thing, then by all means become gay and then just send me lots of money. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Anyways, like I said, good morning. Hopefully everybody out there is doing well. Um, Hopefully you're staying warm too, because like I said, it is a cold MFer here in Pittsburgh. 14 in Tennessee. Yeah, that is rough, buddy. Anyways, we're gonna get into some of the Ukraine stuff. Venezuela, supposedly the US sees another oil tanker, and we'll be talking a lot about Israel and Iran today, but that's gonna be a little bit later in the show. We're gonna get some of this other stuff. And I just want to touch very, very briefly on the Greenland stuff, and perhaps I'll do that now. Um, I guess the angle is that it'll disband NATO. Let's just say I'm skeptical at best that that'll happen. That's we've never had a situation where a NATO member attacks another NATO member, although it doesn't seem quite clear that they're going to do that. It's so hard to tell with the Trump administration because they oftentimes say one thing and do another, or they'll do something and say another. You can just never know with Trump. And sometimes it's something good, which most of the time it's not. And sometimes it's something bad, which most of the time it is. As far as Greenland goes, dude, we got enough problems here in America. We don't need to go expanding our country when we can't, like, the younger generations can't afford houses. They can't afford healthcare. They can't afford cars. They can't afford education. Can't afford healthcare. If I didn't say that already, there's so many problems in the local US that, like, we should just like focus on that instead of kidnapping Maduro and bombing Iran, which now they're sending a ton of military equipment over to the Middle East right now, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Instead of trying to annex Greenland, annex Canada, annex all these places. People keep saying, my manifest destiny, bro, manifest destiny, bro. How about we manifest the fucking United States and actually make this country like a good place again? I don't understand why we want to add all these territories. We can't even handle the ones we got. And then we get in all these wars and we can't even handle those. Like, we still don't know what's going to happen with Venezuela. Delcy Rodriguez says she's still going to have a relationship with Russia and China. And part of the whole reason why they got rid of Maduro, supposedly at least, was to get China and Russia out of our backyard. Well, she still wants to cooperate with them. So now what? And we're going to take all the oil. Okay, where that oil is $80 a barrel when we get cheaper oil here in the United States. I mean, what are we doing, man? Indentured Canadian rickshaw pullers in every city. Yeah. I mean, we're going to annex Canada and get a whole bunch of Indians and liberals, and we're supposed to believe that this is going to make America better. I'm not saying like boomer cons aren't an issue at all. Yes, the boomer cons are awful. Yes, we all agree with that. We all agree Democrats are awful. Part of the reason why I don't spend a lot of time knocking Democrats is because I respect my audience enough to know, like, okay, yeah, Democrats are retarded, evil, and you shouldn't support Democrats at any opportunity. The reason why you come here is because you're looking for a higher IQ conversation. At least I hope you are, about the totality of the US government, the foreign policy, and the truth that you're not hearing about Republicans from other MAGA bootlicking channels, which I don't even, I hesitate to use that term, but like, I don't want, we're having a higher than fucking 85 IQ conversation here. So if you're looking for me to just knock Democrats and say Democrats bad all day, I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. I'll point out bad stuff they do. And there was plenty of that under Joe Biden, but like, it's just not, you guys know that. I don't expect you to not know that. I expect you to at least have that down packed. But yeah, just annexing Greenland doesn't make any sense to me. I know it's 50,000 people. We may buy Greenland, but like, I don't know, dude, $38 trillion in debt, probably $39 trillion by tomorrow. I- can we just fix America first, please? Please, if anything. Anyways, let's get into the first story from antiwar.com. I believe it was excuse me. Oh, where the hell is it? Sorry. Ukraine reports 200,000 soldiers absent without a leave. So, what the hell is going on here by our dear friend Kyle Anzalone, dear friend of the show and great guy? Ukraine reports 200,000 soldiers absent without a leave. 2 million Ukrainians avoid conscription. Originally published at Judge Knapp. The Ukrainian military revealed some of its struggles to get men in uniform and remain on the front lines. I don't want to be a populist. I want to be a realist. Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov said, the Ministry of Defense is coming into my hands with $6.7 million shortfall, 2 million Ukrainians who want or who are wanted, and 200,000 who are absent without a leave. Ukrainska Pravda reports the number of desertions is significantly higher, nearly 300,000. So it really is starting to sound like the Ukrainian military front is starting to collapse. As to when it will collapse, I don't know. And I have a little bit more on like my theory around that here. Once I finish this article, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has turned into a 4 year long war of attrition. It's a much larger country. Russia has been slowly winning the conflict. Ukraine's manpower issues have been previously documented, but a public admission from a top official is rare. Ukraine has attempted to fill its ranks by barring men from leaving the country and conscripting all males 25 and older. That is brutal. Ukraine is also facing a massive budget shortfall. The EU has attempted to exploit frozen Russian assets held in Europe to fund Kiev, but has failed to agree on how to execute the scheme. So, as we've covered in previous podcasts, excuse me, um, the Ukrainian military and like the whole peace deal that not only the Trump administration but also the EU has pushed forward is that they want to use seized Russian assets to fund the restructuring of Ukraine, and I'm pretty sure they want to use that to actually fund the Ukrainian government. Why would Russia agree to a peace plan when they're winning? They have all the cards. They can continue taking territory if they really wanted to. And this is really weakening who they see as their peer adversaries. What's their reason to come to a stop now? I don't see one. So if you're winning on the battlefield, which this is where this war is going to be settled, then why would you stop if you're winning? And on top of that, the Trump administration and the EU have just proposed absolutely non-starters for ending this conflict. And there's the plan trusters who keep saying, "Oh, he's going to bring an end to it." People believe that he was going to bring an end to it on day one, which I called. If you go back to an older podcast, I called that that would not happen. Um, they're winning. So okay, well, why stop? And basically, the West, the EU, NATO, and the US have all said that, oh yeah, we want to put troops on your border. We want to use your stolen assets to fund the rebuilding of Ukraine. And we're going to give them security guarantees, which are basically Article 5 NATO style security guarantees. But we're not going to say they're joining NATO. So it's, as I've said many times now, they basically want Ukraine to join NATO in all but name only. I believe this is mainly at the behest of Marco Rubio and once again, Frederick Merz, whoever else in NATO. But I do believe it's Marco Rubio and them kind of pushing this deal. And that's why they're not going to settle it. Because once again, why? Why would you settle on basically everybody on your enemy's terms when you got the upper hand? So basically, Russia is going to do what they want to do. You kind of see this with the US and Venezuela. Does the West really think we can go to Taiwan and we can go to Ukraine and fight off Russia and China in their own backyards? The answer is no. We can't. Are we really going to drop US soldiers and European soldiers into both those theaters and think we can repel off two global superpowers, which they are now? It's not realistic. Do we really think that China and Russia, first of all, are going to, and then even much less likely, are able to put troops and everybody into Venezuela to defend Venezuela from a U.S. invasion? It's not going to happen. It's just not realistic. Venezuela is like 1,500 miles away from the U.S., from Russia, and from China, and even Iran. If you want to go there, they're thousands. They're at least 5,000 miles away. We would see them coming for like days in advance. So just the likelihood that this is a realistic option, it's just not. It's not. Brutal, yes. It's fucking sad how they basically deleted their country's future. Makes sense when you look into yeah, into the oligarchs in that country. Yeah, exactly. It's a good thing they have a clever plan for those Ukrainian conscripts beyond using them to soak up drone strikes. Oh yeah, the plan is basically like we're deserting. So yeah, that's just a little update on the Ukrainian war. I'm sure there's more, and you can go to Kyle or Dave's show, which Dave is off. He just had a little girl. So big ups to my buddy Dave for finally having a little girl after two little boys. Very excited for him because I know having a daughter is pretty cool. So yeah. Anyways, we are going to move into the next story. US seizes sixth Venezuela linked tanker from our dear friend who I just mentioned, Dave DeCamp. The tanker named Veronica was boarded by US forces in the Caribbean. US forces have seized another oil tanker in the Caribbean, according to statements from the US military and US officials. As the Trump administration continues its blockade on Venezuela with the goal of controlling the country's oil industry and exports. U.S. Southern Command said that U.S. Marines and sailors deployed from the aircraft carrier on the USS Gerald Ford seized a tanker named Veronica early Thursday morning. The command posted a video showing U.S. forces descending onto the tanker. Quote, the Veronica is the latest tanker operating in defiance of President Trump's established quarantine of sanctioned vessels in the Caribbean, proving effectiveness of Operation Southern Spear yet again, Southcom said. And I like Max Blumenthal. I was watching a Gray Zone stream where he said that they're always named after phallic objects, which is just kind of funny. I haven't played these videos. I don't know if this will go over well on YouTube, but we'll find out. I'll turn the volume off. So this is January 15th, 2026, which is when Dave DeCamp wrote this up. Shows them riding in there, troops descending down. It's just like a giant PR thing. We don't know, or at least I don't know. Maybe in the story a little bit later, they'll detail out what happened there. And then they fly off. So that's that. The ship marks the sixth Venezuela linked tanker the U.S. has seized in recent months, and the fourth since the U.S. attack on Caracas to kidnap President Nicolas Maduro, which killed more than 80 people. Last week, after the U.S. seized the fifth tanker, President Trump claimed the action was done in coordination with Venezuela's government, which is currently led by acting President Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's vice president. Quote, today, the United States of America, in coordination with the interim authorities of Venezuela, seized an oil tanker which departed Venezuela without our approval. Trump wrote on a Truth Social last Friday. This tanker is now on its way back to Venezuela, and the oil will be sold through the great energy deal which we have created for such sales. A U.S. official told Reuters on Wednesday that the U.S. completed its first sale of Venezuelan oil under the deal with the Venezuelan government. The official said that the revenue from the initial sale, about $500 million, is being held in U.S.-controlled bank accounts. So I think I discussed this on the last podcast or two, where just like this whole deal where they think we're going to make all this money from oil imports. It's just not realistic. ExxonMobil officials had said that it's not investable. Venezuela is not investable. And there was a quote, I wish I had it pulled up, but they literally said, we don't want to invest in Venezuela when the foreign policy could be changed by a fucking tweet. And the reason why I put the F bomb in there is because that's what they said. There's an interview with a ExxonMobil CEO who just said, like, it's going to cost billions of dollars. We're not sure about it. There are a few gas companies. It wasn't Exxon. I think it was Chevron who's still operating in Venezuela. But right now, that situation is just entirely unstable. We have no idea what's going to happen. It seems like everything is kind of going like decent enough right now, but that's not a guarantee. I'm sure, in every single operation, the last time they tried to coup Venezuela, the couple days after looked fine. In Iraq, right after that, it looked all right. The coup in Panama, some of the other ventures down in South America that led to civil war. I'm sure a few days after, things looked all right. We're now about a week out and a week or two out, and we have no idea just how this is going to play out. And as I explained this a little bit earlier, and I'll explain it again. Venezuelan oil is $80 a barrel. That is $23 more a barrel than oil from the United States. If we really want to access lots of cheap, efficient, clean oil, start fracking. I've been a very, very big supporter of fracking in the United States. The whole Marcellus shale bed, which basically spans from I think it's the southern parts of New York all the way down to the Carolinas, there is billions and billions of dollars worth of oil right there. And the technology is there to do it safely for the environment, and it'll create lots of jobs. This will do great for the economy. But instead, we'll go seize oil tankers in Venezuela, which, some of these are linked to China and Russia. Like this oil is going to China and Russia. I said it in the last show, but there should be a sunset provision on those oil tankers. Like, hey, we did this down in our own backyard. We're looking to secure our own hemisphere. Russia, China, you guys have exactly this many days to finish buying your oil because now we're in charge of this shit. So you guys can screw off. We're going to let you keep the oil that you already bought. After that, you're done. You have to buy through the US. And then once all those tankers have left, gone back to their respective countries, then it's like, all right, well, now you have to buy from us. Instead, how amped up do you think Putin's going to be after the Trump administration and the EU have now told Putin, like, hey, we want to put troops on your border? This never happened under Joe Biden. And this is what's so infuriating about the right wing right now. The opposition to the Ukraine war is gone. You never hear about it anymore. So Trump is saying that he and the EU are trying to flirt with this deal. If Russia will take it, that they're going to give Ukraine security guarantees, and then we're stealing their oil tankers when we're trying to negotiate peace with them. It's like all over the world, we're just basically flipping Russia the finger. We do the same thing to China and Iran, but like right now, there's a hot conflict between the West and Ukraine, or I'm sorry, the West and Russia, and we're just giving them the middle finger, and we expect them to come to the table eager to bring an end to a war that they're winning. It literally makes no sense. So, they just gotta get their shit together. Leave you're gonna have to concede something somewhere, but Trump doesn't wanna appear to lose, and the Ukrainian war is it's a losing prospect. Trump had a great opportunity right at the beginning of his administration to say, "Hey, this whole clusterfuck was underneath the last guy. We're done. We're leaving them out to dry. We're sorry, Ukraine. It should have never happened." As Trump would say, it would have never happened under my watch, even though I think I've made a pretty coherent case in a podcast I did a while ago about Trump's Ukraine policy that I do think it would have happened. Um, Regardless, it's happening now. Wash your hands of it. We're now over a year in, and Trump hasn't. He does not want this war to come to an end because he's still sending weapons, intelligence, and is still offering up NATO style security guarantees. So let me run a Tiger Fitness ad so you all know where to get your supplements from, and we will get right back into the rest of today's show here in a minute. All right, we're going to take a second today to chill and tell you about the show's sponsors, Tiger Fitness. Make sure you go to the link below to get all the supplements that I use day in, day out, and beyond. As I always say, you do not need supplements to become all jacked and tan or to progress in your health journey, but they could definitely be a useful tool in that respect. So, as you can see on tigerfitness.com, we got MTS Nutrition, Blackstone Labs, Ambrosia, HPN, Nutrix Research, America Labs, Alani New, Pump Chasers, there's Redcon One, Accent Sledge, plenty of different companies that pretty much have absolutely any supplement you could possibly think of: pre-workouts, fat burners, BCAAs, electrolyte mixes, you name it, it's on there. So go to Tiger Fitness through the link below. Use code Kyle at checkout to let them know that I sent you. Get your protein powder, you name it, anything that's going to help you stick to your diet and hopefully achieve your health goals. All right, thanks. Back to the show. All right, so we're gonna get into some of the Iran stuff now, and of course, make sure you hit the like. Please, 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 if you're listening live, hit the like button. If you're listening on Twitter, hit the like button, hit the retweet. All that stuff is really, really good objects. Yeah, phallic objects get the most penetration. I'm sorry for trusting the science. Yeah, exactly. Um, JC, good to see you in the chat, of course. Now, anyways, we're gonna start getting into the Iran stuff. This story has come up quite a bit, and I can't believe people are falling for it, but sadly, there are people who are just stupid enough to fall for this stuff.
I'm a member of the Labour Foreign Policy Group, and I received a report just before we came on air tonight. I hasten to add, this is not verified yet, but it's a credible report to me. And it says the city's prison is overcrowded with detained and arrested protesters. The court halls are filled with families of detainees, and no lawyers are being allowed to defend those who have been arrested. People believe that.
I like all the memes, and I'm sure you guys saw some of this stuff where they were taking pictures of like Americans. There's even one. Someone grabbed a picture of Patrick Bet David. It said he was imprisoned. They like made up a fake name and everything because like it's getting so ridiculous, this propaganda with the Iran war. And as I covered in the last show, the short actually did pretty well here on YouTube and on TikTok, where the culture minister Eliyahu or something like that literally said that they have Mossad agents in the Iranian protests. So now like the most reasonable number I saw was like 800 people were scheduled to be executed and didn't. Some people are saying 20,000 people were killed. I don't believe that for a second, if I'm being completely honest with you. The Iranian government is doing pretty rough right now. Like when it comes to the economy, Iran is not doing well. They're seeing massive inflation, but part of this is, and Nico and I covered this on last Wednesday's show. Part of this is because the U.S. government has like $100 billion in seized money from the Iranian government. So when you hear boomers talk about this, and I want you guys to think about this, please clip this. I want you guys to think about this every single time you hear somebody talking about the US allegedly giving money to Iran. The US does not give money to Iran the same way they give money to Israel, they give money to Taiwan, they give money to the Philippines, they give money to Ukraine. The money that goes to Iran, if it ever does go to Iran, like everybody said that Iran had received $6 billion from the Joe Biden administration around October 7th, that didn't happen. Qatar actually stopped that funding because of October 7th. The US has seized billions and billions and billions of dollars from the Iranian government that is meant to, once again, be used in their economy. And every single time that someone says that they're giving money to them, it's actually just returning the money that we stole from them. If you ask me, if you steal something from somebody, the right thing to do is to return it, right? I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So every single time you hear somebody talking about stolen money or the US just throwing money at Iran, it's their money that we stole from them. So if you ask me, I think they have a right to have their own money that we stole from them. Anyways,
that some kind of toxic chemical substance has been used against protesters, causing some of the injured to lose their lives days later. The number of those killed and injured is very high.
And of course, there are people. This guy, I don't know what the hell his name is. Doesn't say on here. GB News, wherever the hell this is. Ayatollah Khamenei is gassing his own people. Where have we heard this before, friends? Where have we heard this one before? Come on, man.
If that is true, I think that's extraordinarily concerning.
Wow. So just to clarify on that then, Bill, the information that you seem to be getting there is from credible source, so that the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah, might have used some sort of chemical weapon against their own people, against protesters, and we are now seeing a delayed reaction to that then. So we're a few days on from that, a couple of days on from that, and now we're starting to see loss of life as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, look,
So I won't destroy you guys with any more of this because it's just it's too retarded to even believe. It's obviously just a pretext for war. Everybody knows this. I don't have to explain this to you guys, but they're obviously doing this because they want you guys to think, oh, Iran is evil, they're harming their own people, so that means we have to go blow them up. This happens every single time. What did they just do with Venezuela? They're sending deadly fentanyl into our country, which isn't even true, according to the Trump's own administration in July. And they even dropped the charges. They dropped the charges of Maduro being held as the head of the cartel of the Suns. They dropped those charges. It's just they're clearly lying to you to basically get you to consent and not lose your mind over the fact that we're fighting another war for Israel. That's largely what it is. One of Trump's largest donors and who's been in his corner, in his ear for years now, Miriam Adelson, is telling him, hey, this is what you got to do. And he's willing to go along with it. Marco Rubio is largely doing the same thing. He received an assload of money from Sheldon Adelson and probably received a lot of money from Miriam Adelson as well. And JD Vance is just along for the ride, bro. And JD Vance is going to have real trouble in 2028 if he doesn't make some kind of discernible position on a lot of this stuff. He looks weak. JD Vance looks completely retarded and weak right now because he's not willing to take a stand on anything. He just kind of tacitly backs whatever the president does. But I think he knows that, like, this isn't popular with the younger people. All the boomers are all for it. The reason why Trump is just why some people love this is because of the boomers. The boomers love this kind of stuff. They hate the Muslims, which, okay, fair enough, whatever. They hate the Muslims, so okay, we got to go destroy Shia Islam because, oh my God, Shia and Sunni Islam because they're taking over the world. This has largely been a narrative that's been pumped into the boomers. Pete and I discussed this on the last show, and we're going to keep their housing prices up because they're going to get out and vote for Republicans. Okay, well, what happens in 2028? The boomers are a dying people now, and it's tragic. We don't want people to die, but they're getting old. So the older generations are going to go away, and then the younger generations are going to become more politically active because their country's getting worse and worse and worse. The Trump administration is doing nothing for younger people, and that's a problem for them. If they want to remain at the head of the government, if JD Vance wants to be elected, he's going to have to make a discernible position, and the Trump administration is going to have to start making some efforts to make America better for younger people. There doesn't seem to be any of that effort. It was Stormy, who's friends with Pete and a lot of these other guys, who he was a real big plan truster at one point, not like to the egregious degree that some people are, but even he was like, bro, come on. like what are you doing for younger people? They never talk about what younger people want or need. There was some stuff with like healthcare that I know he did recently. I want to give them ups for the food pyramid stuff where they upped the recommendation of protein, which is great. Um, what else? The automotive industry stuff that they did with repealing some of the cafe standards, or at least enforcing a fine of $0 on violating the cafe standards. That's legitimately good stuff. But like, to bring down housing prices, they're floating out the idea of a 50-year mortgage. I don't know if they're actually going to go for it, but like, that's literally like a lifelong commitment to debt, because most people now are buying houses older and older and older because they need a longer and longer amount of time to save up to have a down payment on a house. Not everybody was fortunate enough like me, who found a good house at 22 years old and decided to jump on it. It wasn't the wisest idea at the time, but now looking back at it, I'm very glad I did, because I wouldn't be able to afford a house nowadays. And that's a situation that a lot of younger people are in. And the Trump administration is worried about annexing Greenland, bombing Iran, trying to build up around the Asia Pacific to basically fight a war with China. They're still funding this war in Ukraine. They're still sending billions of dollars to Israel, which I saw somebody say that Lindsey Graham ended funding to Israel. No, what he was floating out was in 10 years, potentially phasing out funding for Israel. That's not going to happen. And if it does, it's going to be because Israel's no longer a state, which is possible because Israel took a beating from the last Iran strikes. And all those people who live in Israel are just going to go to Argentina. That already has like the 5th largest Jewish population in the world. So if it's not safe to be in Israel, eventually they're going to, bam, over to Argentina. Thanks. Good to see you, brother. Borders, food pyramid. I can't say that last word because, yeah, YouTube doesn't like that. All feel like fake wins. Manufactured obvious problems to provide W's to shekel cucks. Yeah, pretty much. And I do want to address this actually a little bit more broadly. I think you and I are probably on the same page. I know we disagree on like seed oils and stuff like that and artificial sweeteners, but I think we would all recognize that like the recommendation against grains, I don't really, I'm like indifferent towards it. People largely didn't follow the food pyramid beforehand. People were getting junk food, at least what Steaks, you and I would qualify as junk food. They were eating a lot of processed foods, not, lean protein sources or even like fattier protein sources. It's still better than the standard American diet. They weren't getting eggs, egg yolks, egg whites, salmon, ribeye, or even like a sirloin steak fillet. They weren't getting stuff like that. They were getting burgers and tons of processed food in their diet. I do like that RFK changed the recommendations to, I think it's like 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per pound of body weight. I know they increased it, which is overall good. They also focused on like whole foods, fruits, and stuff like that. So, yeah, don't forget the Gulf of America. Yeah. The border stuff actually is like they did improve the border a lot. And I think a lot of that was rhetoric. And the idea that Trump was going to deport a lot of people. Granted, he only deported about 50,000 more people than the Biden administration did. There were still illegal border crossings, but it has significantly dropped over the last couple of years, which is a good thing. I don't think anybody can argue that it wasn't a good thing that they largely got the border handled. But yeah, to your point, some of the manufactured obvious problems that provide W's for people would be like the alleged dismantling of USAID. That never happened. They got rid of like its own department, and now it's now it's basically assembled under the State Department, being completely overseen by Rubio, who is an arch neocon who supported every single war except for the intervention in Syria in 2013 because it was Obama's war. That was like the only time that he ever decided to be realist Rubio. So, and all the people are falling for this shit. I'm sorry, you're a retard if you're falling for this stuff. Yeah, imagine letting a pyramid bull you into avoiding steak. They actually kept the saturated fat amount the same on the food pyramid, which I'm actually a fan of. I think if I remember correctly, I don't know if they changed it, but they want you to get 10% saturated, 10% polyunsaturated, and 10% monounsaturated fats, which is actually a decent recommendation. Don't get over 10% of your daily calories from saturated fats. Get lots of fiber, lots of fruits and vegetables, increase your protein intake. It's actually a good change. The whole grains and everything, if you're getting whole grains with lots of fiber, then that's actually a good addition to your diet. If you're just getting full sugar white bread, processed grains like that, then okay, that's not really a good addition to your diet, although it can be part of a healthy diet within reason. So, yeah, that's my rant and raving on the nutrition stuff. They actually are doing okay on that front. And, I hope you guys at least see me as a reasonable perspective on the Trump administration. I'm not going to sell you bullshit. I'm not going to sell you black pills. I'm going to sell you what I see as the truth. So, let's go to this next story from our dear friend Dave DeCamp once again. Uh, yeah, U.S. surging military assets to the Middle East to prepare for war with Iran after Trump postpones attack. But the vegetables are covered in glyphosate or late generation GMO seeds. Wahoo! Yeah, who cares? By the time it gets to you and by the time you cook it, that stuff is largely gone. Like the amount you would have to get for that to actually be like genotoxic, as I was saying earlier about like my energy drinks, the amount you have to get to actually be detrimental to your health is so much more than what you're actually getting when you eat that stuff. It's not really worth worrying about, if I'm being completely honest with you. U.S. surging military assets to the Middle East to prepare for war with Iran after Trump postpones attack. Reports claim that Netanyahu asked Trump to delay attacks as Israel wants more time to prepare for counterattacks, which now you're basically revealing your hand to the Iranians. So now they know to at least be prepared. So this is on January 15th as well. The U.S. military is planning to surge military assets to the Middle East to prepare for a potential war with Iran after President Trump backed down from bombing the country, according to a report from the New York Times. U.S. Officials told the paper that the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln and some warships from a strike group were on their way to the Middle East from the South China Sea, a roughly week-long trip. The U.S. is also planning to send an array of warplanes to the Middle East, including fighter jets and refueling aircraft and additional air defenses. According to other media reports, the U.S. military's message Trump amid his threats to bomb Iran is that there weren't enough U.S. assets in the region to face a potential counterattack, which could target the many U.S. bases in the region. Trump was also reportedly told that U.S. airstrikes likely wouldn't result in regime change. It could lead to a prolonged war, which is kind of what we've all been saying. We all keep hearing that the 12-day war was, no big deal. Trump did so great, but like, as I've said on this channel, as Scott has said, as Dave Smith has said, as all like the good foreign policy people said, you just kick the can down the road. Trump is either going to have to commit to full scale war, or he's just going to have to basically take it as, okay, well, we just keep doing this every here and there. We keep occasionally striking the Iranians. What are they going to do? And once again, if you just kind of do this intermittent bombing campaign of Iran, you're assuming that Iran is not going to retaliate. I don't think that's safe. I don't think that's a safe bet. There's tons of U.S. assets in the region. There's aircraft carriers. There's bases, which are real easy for the Iranians to reach out and hit. They already telegraphed last time when they struck the Qatari base. They evacuated that airbase this time. So, I think they would go back and strike it again. You're going to have to figure out something. Either Trump's going to have to do an about face and say, oh, yeah, they can enrich uranium, which I don't think he's going to do because he's been clear on this for over a decade now that they can't enrich uranium for God knows why. Or you're just going to have to commit to full-scale war. One of those, I don't know what they're going to do. Continuing on here. Oh, by the way, if you're listening live, please like, retweet, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, leave a super chat. I would greatly appreciate it, and consider becoming a channel member for the lowly price of $2.99 a month. And go to targetfitness.com, use code Kyle at checkout to let them know I sent you. But yeah, please, if you can do anything, if you don't feel like donating any of your hard-earned cash, just hit a like. It really helps me out. So anyways, continuing on here. The Times report also said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asked Trump to postpone his plans to attack Iran. And Axios reported the same thing later, saying that Netanyahu wants more time to prepare for an Iranian retaliation, which, once again, they're just showing their hand here. If the reports about Netanyahu's requests are true, it's likely that he also wants more U.S. military assets in the region, since Israel relied on U.S. forces to intercept Iranian missiles during the war back in June 2025, and many still got through and struck Israeli territory, which is what led to Israel agreeing to a ceasefire after 12 days. On the other hand, the leaks and delays could be meant to keep Iran off guard as the U.S. and Israel engage in a deception campaign before Israel launched the opening salvo of the 12-day war. And this is what I said last time, is that you can't trust the Trump administration or Israel to make good on their promises to not attack you. They literally did this last time, and Trump admitted this. They admitted this, that they deceived Iran. They used negotiations as a ruse to basically let Iran, or to get Iran to let their guard down so the U.S. and Israel could strike them. They don't negotiate in good faith. If I were Iran, if there were Mossad agents in my protests, bye. You're dancing on air. You're not going to come into my country and destroy it. If we know you're going to attack us, then all right. Well, let's just say we're ready to go. We'll have the airships ready to go. We're going to have, our whole Navy ready to go. Don't fuck around because we don't trust you anymore. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think Iran is largely just going to, maybe this time they might just say, hey, we're going to telegraph that we're going to do some strikes. Make sure you're evacuated or else we're about to whoop that ass. But I don't know what's going to happen. It's tough to say. I don't think it's safe to assume that Iran is just going to continue to back down every single time they're struck. The White House has claimed that Iran has postponed planned executions due to Trump's threats and warned that if the quote-unquote killing in Iran continues, there will be consequences. However, the unrest in Iran is just the latest pretext for war with Iran. And Dave is absolutely right here. One more time. However, the unrest in Iran is just the latest pretext for war with Iran. Iran's nuclear program was the pretext for launching the 12-day war. And while meeting with Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago back in December, Trump said he would back an Israeli attack on Iran if Tehran, quote-unquote, continues its conventional missile program. There's no sign that Iran would even consider limiting its ballistic missiles since they're the Islamic Republic's only form of deterrence. And yeah, like, why would you expect Iran to basically get rid of a form of deterrence when the West continues to basically strike against you? Like, I don't understand, why would you ever expect them to back down or limit their military equipment if the US is just going to continue to strike you? It just doesn't make any sense. So I got two more stories. I want to talk about Mahmoud Khalil here in a minute, but we're going to talk about this story of Trump confronting the US's limited power against Iran. And by the way, one more time, hit the like. In Iran crisis, Trump confronted limits of US military power. From the Washington Post, the president and his national security advisors contemplated striking Iran, but backed away as costs loom and the Middle East allies lobbied for restraint. It was late morning Wednesday, and much of the Middle East and official Washington seemed certain that President Donald Trump would launch punishing airstrikes against Iran, his second major use of American military power in as many weeks after the daring Delta Force raid into Venezuela to seize leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife. Trump had not officially given the strike order, but his top security advisors expected him to imminently authorize one of the military options presented to him and were girding themselves for a late night. I apologize. The Pentagon advertised that a guided missile destroyer, the USS Roosevelt, had entered the Persian Gulf. Allies had been alerted that a U.S. strike was likely, according to a person familiar with the matter, and ships and planes were on the move. Personnel at the sprawling Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar were advised to evacuate, as I said earlier, to avoid an expected Iranian counterstrike. Trump said help is on its way and had promised Iranian protesters, encouraging them in a social media post Tuesday morning to take over regime institutions. While many U.S. and foreign officials took that to mean the United States would intervene militarily, Trump remained open to help in the form of pressuring Iran to stop killing demonstrators. The key moment came Wednesday when Trump received word, though, that envoy Steve Witkoff that Iran's government canceled the planned execution of 800 people, according to a senior U.S. official. We're going to watch and see, Trump then told reporters in the Oval Office. On Thursday, U.S. intelligence confirmed the executions did not happen, an official said. So, as I said on Twitter, sorry, let me take a sip. I made a joke about the 782 of those protesters were likely Mossad agents, which I guarantee you some of them were Mossad agents. You should play a clip of you holding a gun to the camera and hit the damn like button. Yeah. I'll have to record something. But yeah, hit the damn like button. Let me continue on here. Yeah, I believe that probably some of those people that were planning on executing were undoubtedly Mossad agents. Trump's rapid evolution midweek, which left many of his advisors feeling whiplash and the Iranian dissidents feeling abandoned, reflected intense domestic and foreign pressures, according to interviews with more than a dozen current and former U.S. and Middle Eastern officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the sensitive diplomatic conversations and ongoing military preparations. The president came face to face with unpredictability of potentially destabilizing another Middle Eastern country and limitations of even the vast American military machine, several of them said. Having deployed an aircraft carrier strike group and accompanying armada to the Caribbean on Trump's orders, Pentagon officials worried that there was less U.S. firepower in the Middle East than would be ideal to repulse what was expected to be a major Iranian counterstrike. Israel showed that concern, having expended vast numbers of interceptors and rockets against incoming Iranian missiles during their 12-day war in June, one current and one former U.S. official said. Key U.S. allies, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, contacted the White House to urge restraint in diplomacy, a senior Arab diplomat and Gulf official said. Those Sunni Muslim majority nations have long felt threatened by the Shiite majority Iran, but fear spasms of instability across the region even more. Perhaps most of all, several officials said Trump realized that strikes would be messy and might bring possible economic convulsions, wider warfare, and threats to the 30,000 U.S. troops in the Middle East, not like the one-and-done operations he has ordered to destroy alleged drug boats and seize Maduro, target Islamic State fighters in Syria, or damage Iran's nuclear program. And this is a point I've heard a lot of people make, and I think it's reasonable. He wants operations like Venezuela, said a former U.S. official briefed on the decision making. This is going to be messier, which I think I've heard a lot of people say this, and I think it's absolutely true that I think Trump wanted to kick basically Vietnam syndrome, or as we would probably coin it now, Iraq syndrome, where the U.S. is absolutely terrified to get into more interventions. And I think a lot of people looked at the Operation Venezuela and think that that could be duplicated, when I'm assuring you right now that that cannot be duplicated. Iran is a way bigger country with a way bigger military, and they're way more serious and way smarter than people in Venezuela. And Iran has probably been preparing for this for a long time. So in order to seize Ayatollah Khamenei or kill him, you would need to put a lot of forces in that region and prepare for a long, drawn out conflict, because they probably know this is coming at some point or another, or at least they fear that it's coming. So they're probably ready for the worst. It's just not going to be popular. And I think Trump has to kind of walk this fine line of, I'm a big, bad, tough guy, and I also want to make sure that Republicans win. I think he's failing horribly because of the cover up of the Epstein files. Younger people en masse, as far as I know, oppose the Venezuela situation. The war in the 12-day war in June had largely been unpopular. Just younger Americans, as I've said throughout this podcast, they're not in favor of all of this intervention. They want to know what the U.S. is doing for U.S. citizens, and Trump is failing on deportations as well. So if they don't clean up this year, I'm sorry, Vance has no chance. Or is it going to be Rubio? If Rubio actually wins, that may be the only situation where I may expatriate, because fuck Rubio, and I do not believe he is good for this country. I believe he's a disaster. He's been at the forefront of every single U.S. foreign policy disaster, and the people who don't recognize that do so at their own peril. Anyways, the Iranian protests, the largest in the Islamic Republic's 46-year history, appear to have subsided for now in the face of a violent government crackdown that human rights groups estimate has killed more than 3,000 people, which who knows. A true counting of the toll is difficult as Tehran maintains a total shutdown of the internet and telecommunications. The regime looks to have dodged a bullet, said a senior European official in direct contact with the Iranian leadership. But Iranians who risk going out in the streets to demonstrate their fears with the Trump step back, he said, they feel betrayed and utterly devastated. While a strike appears off for now, Trump and his senior advisors are keeping their options open and possibly buying time as the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, a strike group, is dispatched to the Middle East, two officials said. The Lincoln was in South China Sea on Friday, which what the fuck is it doing over there? Officials familiar with the matter said, putting it more than a week away from the Middle East. Nobody knows what President Trump will do with respect to Iran besides the president himself. The White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt said, the president has smartly kept many options on the table. As always, he will make decisions with the best interests of America and the world. Why is it not just America? What does striking Iran do for the world? We're supposed to like jump up and down and get excited about the fact that like, oh, they chant death to America. So that must mean we should fight a war with Iran because they chant death to America. Bro, nobody cares. Nobody cares. People can be offended by that, but what are we going to do? Go fucking bomb Iran over the fact that they chant death to America? That's assuming they even do. Who cares? What have you done for me? Did you see that article that dove deep into Rubio's past? It's really interesting stuff. Um, I know that his brother-in-law, which I've talked about in former streams with JC, I'm sure you've probably overheard me talk about this. His brother was actually a drug trafficker, which is just peak irony. If you go back to the show I did with Anya Parampil, we talked about it as well, where just like he lied about a lot of this stuff, and he is a first-generation immigrant. His family came here from Cuba. They were exiled. They were, I guess, at one point supporters of what the hell is his name? Chavez, or whatever the hell his name is, and they fled to the United States. And then yeah, his brother-in-law literally was a drug trafficker. So anytime you hear anybody talking about drug trafficking, first of all, Juan Hernandez, who had a bounty under the first Trump administration, and they pardoned him, and Marco Rubio's brother was involved in drug trafficking. Case shut. They don't care about drug trafficking. They care about overthrowing Venezuela and South America, because Marco Rubio has a whole constituency of immigrants that are telling him what to do and keep him in power and keep him with support. That's all that is. Maybe not all, but that's a large part of what it is. Anyways, let's continue on here. A cost benefit analysis. Where the hell am I? Inside the White House, Trump was receiving conflicting advice. Vice President J.D. Vance, who has long been skeptical of foreign entanglements, which, okay, supported strikes on Iran. A U.S. official and a person close to the White House said Vance reasoned that Trump had drawn a red line by warning Iran not to kill protesters and had to enforce it. The person close to the White House said. In the Oval Office on Tuesday evening, CIA Director John Ratcliffe and Ron Hawk used a secure iPad reserved for presidential intelligence briefings to show Trump clandestinely acquired videos of regime violence against Iranian protesters and bodies in the streets. The former official briefed on the decision-making said, emotive images have swayed Trump in past crises. Disturbing images of the Syrian chemical weapons used to attack its own people in 2017 moved Trump to order missile strikes, which when you hear people talk about Trump bombing Syria, Trump bombs the fuck out of a lot of countries to the benefit of nobody, to the benefit of arms manufacturers, which I guess I should clarify. People talk about the propaganda surrounding Assad gassing his own people. Trump fell for that propaganda. That's a big caveat there. This is the leader that a lot of people who begged and pleaded you to vote for, who would end the war in Ukraine, bring peace worldwide, peace in the Middle East, and end the war in Gaza, which is funny that nobody really brought that part up. They just kept saying, oh, he'll end the war in Ukraine. Here we are. This guy right here, who's no genius, predicted that would not happen. So everybody hit the like, because I get some things right occasionally. I did get that one right. So I know I'm giving myself a round of back pats here, but I think some people deserve to be criticized for believing a lot of the hype. Surprise, surprise, campaigning politicians lie. I know, shocker. Anyways, where are we at? The CIA had been tasked with collecting intelligence on the violence, though it is unclear whether Ratcliffe offered his view on military strikes. Other Trump advisors urged caution, including Witkoff and Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, who basically works on behalf of Netanyahu. The person close to the White House said Witkoff in particular had heard directly the concerns of Arab allies in the region and wanted to avoid another round of tit-for-tat violence, said a senior U.S. official. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had argued for waiting and letting the economic sanctions on Iran work, another person said, which they've had sanctions on Iran for over a decade now, and it clearly isn't working. General Dan Cain, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and a trusted Trump advisor, was at the White House throughout the day. A person familiar with the matter said Trump was given presentations by the Defense Department and U.S. intelligence agencies of his available attack options, but he determined that the benefit was not there and that the consequences were too great, an individual closer to the Trump administration said. Would a strike have resulted in regime change? The answer is clearly no, this individual said. The negative impact of any attack outweighed any benefit in terms of punishing the regime. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's a cost-benefit analysis. Iran had become aware that the United States was moving military assets, making a strike look imminent. Tehran contacted the Trump administration. A text from the Iranian foreign minister Abbas Araghchi to Witkoff kind of also diffused the situation, according to the individual. Soon after learning of that message, Trump told reporters in the Oval Office that he had learned the killings would stop, according to a U.S. official. I greatly respect the fact that they canceled, Trump said Friday as he prepared to leave for the White House for his Mar-a-Lago estate. Tens of thousands of demonstrators have been arrested and are in Iranian prisons, which human rights groups say are known for torture and other abuses. Which I guarantee you, those human rights groups are probably funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, the CIA, which I repeat myself, and the Mossad, more than likely. Everybody, one more time, hit the like, leave a thumbs up, retweet on Twitter, and if you feel so kindly, please become a channel member for the lowly price of $2.99 a month, or leave a super chat. It would mean a lot to me and goes a long way in supporting the channel and the Matovcik family, who is very, very near and dear to you and who does a lot of work to provide you with great information and hopefully great content as well. Yeah, they basically care about monopolizing the drug trade. Yeah, I think that's a factor as well. So anyways, we will continue on in this article one more time. Hit the like. The message: avoid military action. Iran wasn't the only concerned country, the concerned country to urgently communicate with the White House. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Oman, and other Arab allies united to urge Trump to maintain his diplomatic options with Iran, said the senior Arab diplomat and Gulf official. The message to Washington is to avoid military action, the Gulf official said. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, and Egypt were on the same page in the sense that there will be consequences for the wider region in terms of security and the economy as well, which will ultimately impact the U.S. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the country's de facto leader, spoke to Trump by phone during the week to plead his case, according to a Saudi diplomat and a U.S. official. Salman and the leaders of other U.S. allies in the Middle East were concerned about how Iran would retaliate in the event of U.S. airstrikes, which, once again, I said earlier, I don't think that the Iranian regime really wants to have an all-out war over there. I think they would probably do some some communicated strikes, but I don't think they're really going to go for a full-out war. I don't think they want that. I think they largely just want to do what they want to do, and I'm sure there's some degree of instability there. But I think the US and Israel are the main drivers of instability in the Middle East. There is always going to be some inherent instability over there, but I think the US and Israel are causing the vast majority of it. Iran had begun warning Gulf states that its retaliation would not be as calibrated as it had been after the US attack on its nuclear facilities in June, when Iran telegraphed its intention and then lobbed roughly a dozen missiles at the Al Udeid air base, according to multiple officials. There are also concerns that Iran's proxies, such as including Hezbollah, could launch their own attacks, which would pose a more serious risk without an American aircraft carrier strike group in the region. Israel wasn't ready either, particularly without a large supporting U.S. naval presence. Benjamin Netanyahu had launched a massive military intelligence operation against Iran's nuclear facilities, and scientists in June called Trump on Wednesday and asked him not to strike because Israel was not fully prepared to defend itself, a person close to the White House said. The leader spoke twice, a U.S. official said. A key factor contributing to Israel's vulnerability was the absence of major U.S. military assets, which Israel has relied on increasingly to shoot down retaliatory strikes from Iran and exchanges between the two nations over the past 21 months, a U.S. official said. The U.S. support has come at a rising cost to Washington's stockpile of interceptors, the official said. Throughout Wednesday, Washington's Arab allies were unsure whether their overtures would succeed, but a factor in their favor was Trump's uncertainty that the military options in front of him would have had a decisive and predictable outcome and wouldn't result in problematic consequences for the region. Or his own sterling track of a record of using U.S. military power quickly and cleanly, a senior Arab diplomat said. A diplomatic lobbying encouraged Trump to stand down, according to a Saudi diplomat, 2 European officials, and an individual briefed on the matter. At the Pentagon on Wednesday, aides to senior leaders were prepared to stay late in the night in the anticipation of U.S. strikes around 3:30 p.m. They got word they could go home as normal. Vance ultimately agreed with the president's decision to hold off, a person familiar with the process said. The president will have another opportunity to sign off on strikes over Iran in the next 2 to 3 weeks when U.S. assets headed toward the region will be in place, helping allay Israel's concern about its own protection, officials said. The threat level is not expected to subside soon. The U.S. Military Central Command has been directed to plan staffing for the 24/7 high-level impact for the next month, a person monitoring the situation told the Washington Post. So, yeah, I mean, this situation, as anybody who knew anything about this situation knew, this situation is still largely unsolved. And as I've said before, as people wiser than me have said, you're basically going to have to either keep doing strikes to kick this can down the road and assume Iran won't respond, which by most accounts, it seems like they're going to in some aggressive way, or you're going to have to commit to full scale war. And I don't think Trump wants to do that. I don't think they want to get too many people involved in this because I think Trump wants a large, clean operation. That's why he's always committed to drone strikes. They've basically struck Somalia a day, basically every single day ever since the year started. So, I mean, we're well over 120 airstrikes, if I recall correctly, in Somalia. Israel's still breaking the ceasefire in Lebanon every single day. They're still killing Palestinians pretty frequently. So it's not like Israel's really stopped. They're not able to bring the war in Ukraine to a close because they're still sending weapons there, and their peace plans are just absolutely, at the lunch. So I don't know what they really plan on doing here. They're fumbling. I hear people saying all the time that, like, oh, trust the plan. He's going to do all this wonderful stuff. I don't see it, man. I don't see it. They're flailing, and I think they're going to get their ass handed to them in the midterms because the foreign policy is a disaster, the domestic policy is a disaster, and prices are still going up. So they're screwed either way. So I got one last story from, well, you know what? Let me see how long this is. Yeah, you know what? Basically, yeah, I'll skip the story for what's his face, Mahmoud Khalil. I think we'll wrap here. So, yeah, exactly. Trust the plan. Clown shit, absolutely clown shit. Let me run my Great Megalodon thing and make sure you go subscribe to the Great Megalodon channel. Go to the Great Megalodon on YouTube, go to the Great Megalodon on Substack, and go check that out because I will be starting to upload content there. Eventually, I'm going to get a little bit of a backlog going. That's where I just talk about heavy metal stuff. So if you want a little bit of a cooler pace, you don't have me yelling at you about foreign policy and all that stuff, go check out the Great Megalodon on Substack. I do album reviews. I talk about guitars. I talk about heavy metal, just entertainment stuff. It's a lot of a more like chill vibe, just entertainment, easy reading. My whole goal with it was basically I'm going to publish an article. So when you sit down to take a dump or something like that, you could just read it. You'll feel a little bit happier. And, if I do an album review or something like that, you'll know if the album is worth your time or not if you're into heavy metal. So make sure you go check that out. I have no plans of any guests anytime soon. I'm working with with somebody to get him back on the show, but just coordinating with guests is just a large pain in the ass. So, one person I want to get back on the show, and I know he's taking a little bit of like a social media sabbatical, my dear friend Connor Freeman. So make sure you go follow him as well. Everybody seems to like when we have conversations. I really enjoy talking to him. So hopefully he'll be back on soon whenever he's up and ready to go. Go tell Dave DeCamp you're grateful for him and his little girl. They just had a little girl this past week, so he's gonna be off for a little bit. So you can come here, and of course Kyle Anzalone's show to go check out further foreign policy writing. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, big thing, big thing. Where is it? I know I got the picture here somewhere. Do I not have it? No, okay, well, shout out to members real quick while I try to find it. Abrogate D's, B Cornish, Trey 50, Daniel, Rachel Wilson, and Siege D. Thank you guys so much for being channel members. I really appreciate it. Yeah, you know what? I reached out to him. I sent him a message and he never replied. Maybe I should try reaching out to him again. I would love to talk to him. I think the work he does is awesome. So yeah, I'd totally have Derek on anytime. But Slow Down by Common Crown. I've been telling you guys forever now that a Common Crown is going to have new music out very, very, very soon. Let me see if I could find the thing. Loop. I can't figure it out. Let me pull up the picture here. We're at the end of the show now, so a lot of people typically hop out anyways, but make sure you go check out acommoncrown.com where you can find a common crown and all that good stuff. Yeah, I can't find the damn picture. Maybe if I go on my YouTube channel here, posts, bam, here we go. Sorry guys, share this tab instead. A Common Crown will have a new song out on Wednesday, the 21st. Slow down. We have been working very, very diligently on getting new music out there. So, A Common Crown, Slow Down on all media platforms, January 21st. Go check that out. And when it comes out, turn it up loud. Can't wait to share that with you all. I might put the guitar playthrough up on the new channel, more than likely. Gage, thank you so much, brother. Welcome to the family. Let me add you to our little ticker here. And I will play it one more time. Gauge W12. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for becoming a channel member, and everybody else, you can join Gage and all the other wonderful people here for the lowly price of $2.99 a month. I try to make it as affordable as possible, and I do try to give you some benefits. So I do appreciate it. It helps the Matovcik family out, keeps me happy, and keeps you doing hopefully what you deem as high quality work. And as long as you guys like it, I will continue to produce more and more content for you. So please hit a like on the way out, leave a super chat if you're so inclined. If you're on Twitter, please like, retweet, all that good stuff. You can find me everywhere, Kyle Matovcik, A Common Crown. Go to 5 till midnight. Make sure you subscribe to that channel. We're almost at monetization. We just have fun on Monday nights. And go check out Nico's channel as well for the People Podcast, where we do a lot of the same stuff I do here on Wednesdays. And of course, the Great Megalodon, where I'm publishing articles now every Friday. And go subscribe to the Great Megalodon YouTube channel. Guys, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a fantastic week. Hopefully your weekend was absolutely great. And I will see you on the next stream.